Chris Cartman, son of a source. So Kenny, with the bye week, can you give us any update on maybe some guys who could be available now or status?
Yeah, offensively, hopefully Isaiah is back. Hopefully Cade will be back and healthy from those two guys. So hopefully those two come back for us. That'd be huge. Running backs to Carlos Brooks. We hope to get back this week or next week. Just kind of still feeling that out. Defensively, the break for JC was a positive, so he's still, battling back and getting back to full speed, but he played, over half the snaps last, 2 weeks ago, so I feel like he'll be good. So I feel like the guys that were out for, not season endings got healthier, still banged up, but, definitely better than what we were.
How much can that help you, especially with the offensive front?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, like I said, last game we were down quite a few guys. So to get 2 guys back, if we were to get an Isaiah and a Cade and a Sione is still questionable. Hopefully, he comes back and practices, and you were to gain 3 of your guys back. That's 3 guys that were starters to start the year. That is a critical, addition if that happens. But we'll still have to monitor throughout the week because we haven't seen them practice yet. And
then Bram's done pretty well in pass pro, especially. So how do you look at Isaiah? Like, could one play right tackle, one left tackle, or?
Depending on who's healthy, the combination of getting the best 5 to 8 guys in rotation. I think that's the key. Is there's different theories. You can play 5 guys all game. I think if you play 5 guys all game, you should have 5, world beaters up front. I think the combination of trying to get to 7 or 8 is the number to keep guys fresher and healthier, especially when you're banged up, is the ideal situation. So really depending on what guys are available, can we get to that number 8? And if he is in, where does the other guy go? Kind of combination to get the best 5 on the field.
Rubino, Devil's Digest. Kenny, obviously last week is devoted to self-scouting. Was there one element in specific that was eye-popping, maybe in a good way or a bad way, maybe something that you didn't really think earlier in the season was an issue or maybe a pleasant surprise, and as you self-scout, it really comes up to the surface more?
Yeah, obviously third downs, specifically third and shorts and fourth and shorts for us, which we knew, but it's just, another glaring deal that we've got to get better at. We were better at it the prior week. I believe we were 2 for 2 on fourth and short scenarios. And then defensively, third and longs, too many third and extra longs are being converted, which has to be cleaned up, and not like 3rd and 9, which I call long, 3rd and 18s, 3rd and 22s. Too many third and just, absurds. That have accounted for 21 points, which is crazy to think about when you have the third and absurds and they account for 21 points in a season when your defense is playing well. Imagine how much better we still could play. And that was really the message. And then offensively, explosive plays. Our longest rush, we're half through the season, is still 18 yards. That's like we have to find a way to change that. So, we've tried to do different things, to be honest, the last 3 weeks to change that. We're going to try some other things this week to change it because you're just not going to win many football games if you can't create explosives. And specifically, if you can't run the ball, or create explosive runs in any way, shape, or form, that limits you to true drop back. And if you're true drop back, you better be ready to be able to pass protect and throw the ball down the field and drop back. So we're really looking at those explosive plays. How can we create that without necessarily holding on to the ball?
You're facing another great quarterback. Obviously, you did a good job on Shador and really Caleb, too. Now you're facing Penix, and he's another problem. How do you kind of contain him?
Yeah, contain is the correct word. His release is incredible. The ability for him to get the ball out to somewhere he's not looking. I mean, he had a throw this Saturday throwing the ball to his left on a third down where he was looking to his right and there was a free hitter on his left. And, I mean, he got the ball from the moment that he wanted to release the ball into the receiver's hands, who was 12 yards away down the field for a first down, I could have sworn it was 2 seconds. It was throw catch. And because he has a strong arm, he's got a quick release, and I think that's one of his greatest skills is he doesn't get sacked. He doesn't get sacked because this is year, I believe, 5 in this system. He was with Coach at Indiana, and he had a lot of success, and then he came out here, and this is year 2 here. So this is a guy, year 4 in the system. This is a guy who's so comfortable in their system, and he's a vet, and he's a freakish talent. Yeah, he's really good.
Get one follow-up, too. We haven't talked about Jaden in a while, and obviously you'd said before you'd like to preserve his red shirt. Any sense that he may or may not come back at all this year, or a couple games, or when?
It just depends on how the rehab goes. He's been doing a good job rehabbing it and getting out, and he's going to start to get a little bit more engaged just in terms of the game plans and being more dialed in and stuff like that this week, just to get his mind back in that mold. Because he's been focusing on the physical side of the rehab, and he's still going to do that. So it just depends on where he is, in 2, 3, 4 weeks from now.
Outside of the outside of Penix, what makes the Washington offense just so special in your eyes?
Motion shifts, eye candy. They do the same stuff, and they present it a bunch of different ways. They do a really good job. Their staff. Obviously, their offense coordinator and their head coach they've been together for a long time, and they do a really, really good job creating leverages in the passing game with split variations. So, they threw a double post last week off of a cut split versus quarters where they created an advantage play versus an outside leverage corner. So they do such a good job varying that up, and then their offensive line is good. And that helps, when your offensive line can pass protect 4 on a consistent basis, and you can go through your 3rd, 4th, 5th reads on a consistent basis, you're going to be a good passing team when you combine that with the weapons they have, the scheme they have. So I would say this is one of the rare teams that has difficult scheme with good players, great quarterback. And not many times do you have to play all 3. Usually you get to play, a simple scheme, and we're going to beat you through our players. And then they have better players. Very rarely do you have to play a team that is super well coached with great players that use advantage plays, which is kudos to them. They do a really good job. I think Coach DeBoer is one of the top offensive minds in football, one of the top head coaches, and kudos to him.
Blake Neiman, Cronkite Sports. Coach, just playing against Washington last year when you were at Oregon, from an offensive standpoint, how do you try and match that level of offensive production on your side to keep up with Washington?
We get a lot of first downs. Last year, this is a defense that they've changed. I shouldn't say they've changed. Their identity of who they were last year was a quarters team, and they've kind of changed that. And you can look at the numbers and say they're a quarters team, but then you look at when they run quarters, and it's when they're up by 70 points versus teams with their 2s in. When their 1s are in, they're extremely multiple now. So I think they were installing what they wanted to install last year, and they were very simple. They were about not busting, being in the right spot, and they did a really nice job. And this year they really expanded on that and been able to add this. They have more coverages than any team we faced all year on early downs. And it's because they're in year 2 of the system. They're comfortable in it. They're good up front, so they know they can rush 4 and get to the quarterback. They'll bring some simulated pressures. So, it's a great challenge for us. But, our guys are up for the challenge.
Questions? I got one here. Anything? Chris?
Yeah, Kenny, you've worked with some of your receivers in the backfield, and just kind of wanted to get your thoughts about how you think that's actually functioned and what you might be able to do to build upon that.
Yeah, it was productive. I thought we missed one on an option the other day. We got them matched up versus defensive end with the little skip motion. But we're just trying to create explosives. And so some of those guys are our most explosive players. So trying to put them in different spots to create the best one-on-one advantages we can create. So if a team is going to treat one of our wideouts as a running back and play the same coverages, the same match principle defense, and now their will linebacker, their defensive end has to cover a wideout in the passing game, which we've gotten a few times, right? That's a big advantage play for us. So I think week by week, depending on how a team plays defense, if a team is a true zone defense, there's not as much advantage as it is as a team who matches coverages more. So basically, you can run the pick and roll and get a center on your point guard versus a team that's going to just zone everything off, not run the pick and roll. It's useless, like when you're creating those advantages. So I think that just depends on the team we play and what they do defensively, how much of that we're going to do.
Hey, Coach, Jordan Ham, Sports 360 AZ. During this bye week, have you had a chance to kind of self-reflect and look at the big picture of the first half of this season, and what surprised you about, kind of going through this process first year as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, from a football standpoint, I've looked back and a lot of what ifs, a lot of man, that was close. If we just did this better, we could be 3-3, right? If we just did this better, we could be 4-2. I mean, it's just that, but that's how close football is, and that's why winning is hard, and that's why winning, takes time. In terms of me, I didn't really have time to reflect myself on my own personal experience. I was more trying to figure out how to put our players in the best position moving forward this year. After the season, I'll definitely look back and reflect. Obviously, I take notes every week on just schedules and what I liked, what I didn't like, the staff, away game schedules, all the other stuff that goes into it. And we'll talk about those things when the season ends.
Yeah, we saw in pregame and also last week in practice that Jaylen Connette is working more with the receivers than the tight ends. Is that something that you're evaluating, or what's your sort of perspective on
Yeah, last week, schematically, we were doing a lot of 3-by-1 sets and trying to isolate the boundary corner and some stuff to work one-on-ones. We felt like we were in a lot of open sets in general last week, so we could either put him at the point, to block for the perimeter screens, or we could put him over at the X, in which he could, have some one-on-ones, which we tried to give him some early. Unfortunately, he was, sick, so he's going to continue to be moved around, around the field. He'll work out with the H's, but just throughout different game plans, he will become the soloed X a little bit, but for us, that's not the X. So moving forward, he'll get back to the H. That was just more of a game plan deal and just what was best for him and us going into that week.
And then in consideration of trying to get more explosives and looking at some of these things, like the way that you use Jaylen or receivers in the backfield, how much do you go back to prior years and think about personnel composition or anything else that jogs an idea?
Yeah, I go to prior years, then I look at the explosive plays in college football this year. Because if I go back, to look at 8 years ago, every defense is going to play tight quarters, and your explosive plays are going to be some sort of play-action posts because it's a tight quarters game because it was quarterback run-driven game at that point. Well, the game has evolved past that, and teams have become a little bit more, significantly more one high again because the quarterback run game is not as prevalent in college football as it was 8 years ago, which means now all your 3-level floods, your throwbacks, your one-on-one throws, those are becoming the trends in terms of I usually look for creative ways to run screens, creative ways to run throwbacks, creative ways to, scheme up open people. Because at the end of the day, if you face a post-safety defense, everybody's going to run post-wheel. If you face a quarter team, everybody's going to run post-climb. That is everywhere in college football. And if those plays aren't creating your explosives, now how you do that, creating leverages and splits and motions to create the leverages to run the same thing, that's what makes coaches really good. But if you're still not having success with those, then how can you create a little more uniqueness to try to get one, like the quarterback sneak with no lineman last week? Like, how do you do things that are a little bit different based off of what your struggles are? And that's always what I'm looking for. You can't make an excuse. Nobody cares. Like, you go find a way to be better. That's it. Every single day, find a way to be better. Nobody gives a crap if you're running for 3.8 yards a carry, right? Find a way to run the ball. So we're going to be more creative in that to find a way to run the ball. and try to find a way to be explosive, even if that's ball in hand explosives.
Coach, big theme from the Oregon-Washington game was the aggressiveness on fourth down on Oregon's side. Has their lack of success at points in that game on fourth down affected your mentality towards fourth down this week?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that game was a really, really good football game. You look at Coach DeBoer went for it at the end of the second half, or at the end of the second quarter in the 2-minute drill and converted a 4th and 1. Right? Great job being aggressive and getting and extending the drive. You looked at him at the end of the game going for it. So it wasn't just one side of the ball that was being aggressive in that game. It was both sides of the ball. They're both those coaches are really good football coaches because they play to win the game. They play aggressive, and they attack over and over again. So I think it just comes back to, critical moments and, win or lose games. And, we've faced those where our critical moments haven't been our best moments, which has been unfortunate. And those critical moments can completely change the game. So to answer your question, no.
Hey, Coach. Caleb Campetto, Devil's Digest. You kind of talked about earlier about some of the guys that are coming back from injury. Have you noticed, although early, kind of any extra excitement or confidence? As this is obviously a big test, big road trip, but also this might be back to where you guys are more 100%, where you guys are able to move maybe a little bit more efficiently, or just some of the guys having a little bit more confidence in each other, like we're healthy, we might be a little bit deeper in some areas?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like the guys just, taking a break, not just physically, but mentally, is important for people to get refreshed. So I think there was definitely like a sense of, okay, we're ready to get back to work. Like we're ready to go back and continue to get better. So I definitely felt that. In terms of physically and on the field, I don't know yet. We'll find out when we practice on Tuesday. But I'd be lying if I told you. I mean, it's still a week. So it's not like we all went into the Austin Powers ice machines and then became like a new person. Like we still have bumps and bruises. I wish we could do that. What's that? I don't even know what that deal's called, but everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Obviously, there are a lot of players that are still here that beat Washington last year, Coach Aguano as well. How have you been leaning on them, or are you going to lean on them, heading into this one against Washington?
Well, I mean, you look at that game, and I told the guys today it was the pick six. If you want to win games like this, you have to be the team that has the pick six on your side. There was a drive in the second half where they stopped them on a 4th and 1 on the -28, -32. They stopped Washington when they went for an aggressive 4th and 1 call, which I think is a good decision because that's why they're good on offense, is because the coach is so aggressive. But they stopped them. So they won those 2 downs, and those 2 downs equated to 14 points. That's the football game. So I think when you're looking at the why, and they ran the ball at a high rate, over 6 yards a carry. So if you run the ball for over 6 yards a carry, you create a 4th and 1 stop on their own -28, and you get a pick six, the odds of winning the football game are through the roof. So I challenge our guys that we got to have those explosive plays, not just on offense. We got to have those explosive plays on defense and special teams to put us in position to win the football game.
I saw, I think last week, that you retweeted something about Utah's players getting trucks, leased trucks for an NIL thing. And I just wanted to know, from your perspective, kind of where ASU is at in that respect right now, and how important is that in the success of college football teams now?
Yeah, I mean, I retweeted it because I'm happy for the kids. I mean, to be honest, that's cool. That's awesome. Like, anytime somebody gets something like that, that's pretty cool for them. Like, they all get a brand new truck. I mean, that's awesome. So that's why. I mean, people get all in their feelings about it, and I see something that's cool, and I'm like, that's cool. All those kids get a car. Right? It's very, very simple. In terms of us, I think we are very close to turning a corner in the space, and it is essential. I mean, point blank, it's absolutely essential. It's essential. I mean, there's not a better word that can describe its value other than that. It really is over 80 to 85% of the process now for, 80-85% of the kids. That's a huge piece of it. And to be honest, why should it not be? They're working really hard, and So it's just part of it.
Do your conversations with boosters, business leaders, local people, people at ASU, does it reflect an understanding of that urgency and that part of it?
Yeah, I think they do. I think there's, I think we're close to making action on it. I think right now it's, when we got here, there was really nothing in NIL. There really wasn't anything done, and there's been a lot done over the last, 9 months, 10 months. But I think really what's done over the last 10 months is the education, the educating of people. People don't know what it is. People don't know how to do it. People don't know how the value is it. People don't know anything about it. So it's really been, we've had to educate people from ground zero. So I like to say we were 2.5 to 3 years behind on the educating of people in this space, and now people are catching up. I think our president's on board. He understands, and he's just, a supporter of it. So I am in hope for what the future holds in that space. Not down the road, but hopefully, soon, like now. So I actually have a meeting here at 1 o'clock where I'm driving down to meet with somebody to talk to them about the importance of this space and building a roster, not just guys bringing in, but, the retention of players and the whole process that goes along with it.
Coach, to piggyback off that, I mean, when you're recruiting, obviously you're talking about players that want to play at this level and competition, but with that part of the NIL, I mean, separating in what their, motivation might be, how tough is that? How much more tough is that for you guys as a coaching staff to separate that?
I mean, it's really the same, to be honest, as it was before. NIL, obviously, you can't tell somebody what he's going to get paid. You have to just express what other guys on your roster make. That's really what NIL is just expressing what, hey, this guy makes this, so I could see you probably making something similar, I would assume, right? But you can't make promises and you can't make guarantors. But kids are kids. Like, they're the same kids. They can just make money doing it. So, yeah, I'm all about that. But I don't think that changes the makeup of a kid, or if a kid says this is important to him, that changes what I think of the kid. Not at all. I think everybody is raised differently. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, and money, some kids is more valuable than other kids. And there's nothing wrong with that, because they may have grown up in a completely different environment where, people say, $5 to one person is $5 million for someone else. You can never judge somebody off of what they believe in that. You have to just get to know the kid and hope that you have the best situation for them, and hope the city can get behind the team. That way those kids can make money when they get here.